Hi. Welcome to this session on DNS attacks. A DNS attack is any attack targeting the availability or stability of a network's DNS service. Attacks that leverage DNS as its mechanism as part of its overall attack strategy, such as cache poisoning, are also considered DNS attacks. In this session, I will present an overview of the common types of DNS attacks used by malicious actors. Let's begin by explaining what is DNS. The Domain Name System or DNS is the phonebook of the Internet. Humans access information online through domain names, like google.com or apple.com. Web browsers interact through Internet Protocol or IP addresses. DNS translates domain names to IP addresses so browsers can load Internet resources. Each device connected to the Internet has a unique IP address which other machines use to find the device. DNS servers eliminate the need for humans to memorize IP addresses such as 192.168.1.1 in IPv4. Or more complex newer alphanumeric IP addresses in IPv6. Let's begin with some common types of attacks on the DNS. These attacks focus on attacking the DNS infrastructure itself, either rendering the DNS service itself unavailable or subverting the answers provided by the DNS servers. The first kind of attacks are network floods. Like any other server, DNS servers are prone to all network-based attacks. There are many ways attackers can cause a large amount of network traffic to the DNS servers, such as TCP or UDP or even ICMP floods, rendering the service unavailable to other network users by saturating the network link to the DNS servers. The second kind of attacks are targeting software vulnerability of the DNS itself. Attackers can leverage a specific vulnerability to the DNS server software or host operating system, to either bypass control measures to create rogue entries in the DNS database, or cause the DNS server to crash. These kinds of attacks are not unique to DNS but are common attacks for any network-based systems. To further elaborate on this, there are actually two types of DNS servers: recursive and authoritative. Recursive and authoritative DNS go hand in hand. Both depend on the other to do their job. There are key differences between them, though. For one, recursive servers only store a temporary copy of the domain phonebook and often have to get an answer for a query from another server. In this way, they're like the guy who knows a guy that knows a guy. The authoritative servers, on the other hand, always hold the most accurate version of this digital phonebook and are able to provide a final answer for user queries. Recursive DNS is used by everyone and is necessary for any device that connects to another resource on the Internet. Although most recursive DNS lacks advanced features and customization options many authoritative services provide. Now that you know the different types of DNS servers, we would begin with some attacks against authoritative servers. Authoritative name servers maintain the DNS zone and records, similar to a database. These are some common attacks against authoritative DNS servers. The first type of attack is the reconnaissance of activities. DNS data by design is supposed to be for public consumption, making this the ideal first step for an attacker trying to learn more about a target environment. This attack does not directly impact service availability or stability, but it is usually part of a long-term strategy of a larger attack. For example, an attacker could deduce that exchange.example.com listed in the MX record is running Microsoft Exchange, and launch specific attacks against it. The next type of attack is unauthorized updates. Authoritative name servers can accept dynamic updates, meaning they can essentially create new DNS records on the fly. However, this feature could be exploited by attackers to sneak unauthorized entries into the DNS zone. The next attack type is subdomain attack. This is a type of DOS attack, and its goal is to overwhelm the authoritative name servers to the point that it can no longer respond to legitimate queries. In this attack, the attacker sends a lot of queries for subdomains that probably do not exist, consuming the authoritative server's resources to the point that it causes disruption to other DNS lookups. For example, instead of querying for example.com, the attacker would query for aaa.example.com, bbb.example.com and so on. Now let's take a look at attacks against recursive servers. The most common attacks in this category is cache poisoning. The main job of a recursive server is to build and hold a rich cache of DNS answers. Cache poisoning aims to corrupt the answers stored in the cache, so any subsequent lookup from other clients will get the corrupted answer. Next is the use of phantom domains. Similar to the subdomain attack against authoritative servers, this attack queries recursive name servers that are known to not exist. This will waste the recursive server's time unlocking the DNS namespace, only to reach the conclusion that the name does not exist, filling up the cache with useless answers. These two are very common techniques used by attackers. Let me end with a brief description of other DNS-based attacks and exploits. One of the DNS-enabled attacks is amplification plus reflection attack. This is a type of attack where attackers take over DNS servers within an organization as part of a DDoS attack to target someone else. Next we have domain hijacking and redirection. This category of attack subverts the users to go to a different destination. Attackers could infect the target client machine with malware that changes the local DNS settings, so that all DNS requests are sent to the DNS server under the attacker's control, such as the case for the DNS changer worm. Speaking of malware, many types of malware today are using DNS as part of their overall function to not only communicate with the command and control server but to update and evolve itself. A prime example is the WannaCry ransomware, which relies on making an initial successful DNS query before it executes its attack. And lastly we have data exfiltration and tunneling. DNS tunneling is a general technique that encodes messages in DNS queries and answers, mostly to evade detection. While there are legitimate uses of DNS tunneling, where it gets serious is when someone uses it to exfiltrate sensitive information out of the target environment. This is extremely difficult to detect, due to the ever-changing domain names and the encoding-decoding schema chosen. Thank you for your time to go through this session, and I hope it has at least given you a high-level understanding on what are the various kinds of DNS attacks, and why it is important to secure the DNS used in your environment. Do go through my channel to watch other videos on various topics. Thank you.